Hi, my name is Chuck Callahan. I am the current president of the county council. Welcome. There's a lot of people here tonight, and I appreciate you guys being here. Tell you a little bit about myself. I've been on the council for 8 years. I'm a born native here. I'm in the fire department. I'm a life member, got a couple kids, and I've enjoyed being on the council and looking forward to being on it again. We've got a lot of important subjects. We got land management, we have safety, and we have big stuff like the budget. So I've been through 8 budgets, and I'm looking forward to helping diversify some of the departments and helping people get where they need, and I'm looking very forward to working for you guys. Thank you. Chuck Callahan for County Council.
My name is Michelle Dappert, and at 31, I am part of the next generation of leadership in Talbot County. I am a tireless, passionate advocate for my beloved home, and I got my start in high school when I spoke at the County Council on behalf of the Laptop 1-to-1 program whose funding was threatened. Saving it taught me the power of local government and inspired me to earn a degree in digital communications at Emerson College and gave me my career. As a senior media planner for a Baltimore-based ad agency, I work remotely in Talbot on several clients, including the Department of Commerce. And in 2020, I worked as a technical specialist for the Board of Elections. My experience in digital communications and technology qualifies me to lead an overdue modernization of county systems. I have a vision of Talbot County where everyone can live, work, and retire in dignity, security, and prosperity. And I have always known that building community requires civic engagement. And that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Keisha Haith, and I'm running for Talbot County Council because I believe that an effective government should represent the population in which it serves. I spent 21 years as an economic development professional for local government. Currently, I serve as president and CEO of a local nonprofit right here in Talbot County that I founded in 2013. I have a proven track record as being an experienced leader and consensus builder who will champion business, economic development, and environmental strategies. Let's work together to ensure Talbot County continues to be a great place to live, work, play, and do business. As your elected official, I promise to be bold, be persistent, and be partners together.
My name is Phil Jackson, and I believe Talbot County needs leadership with practical experience, and my experiences uniquely qualify me to lead in Talbot County. I'm a technology leader with over 20 years of experience helping healthcare organizations and government agencies transform digitally and reach rural communities. I have a degree in criminology and criminal justice from Northeastern University. I've spent the last 3 years helping the Preserve at Y Mills transition their failing wastewater treatment plant to Talbot County. And in doing so, I've had a unique and privileged experience working with the County Council, Department of Public Works, and Maryland Department of Environment. My family of 6 call Talbot County our home, and my 4 children attend our public schools. We believe that volunteerism and community service is critical, and I welcome the opportunity and possibility of serving on our council.
I'm Scott Kane, running for Talbot County Council. I'm running on a platform of better government for Talbot County. My wife, family, and I moved to Talbot County over 40 years ago, and I've been involved in Talbot County local government issues during that time. Prior to that, I was mayor of Chevy Chase, and that's where I learned to cut my teeth on local government issues and doing things for the betterment of the citizens. My professional career is as a businessman and engineer, and I bring those skills as well. We have a number of important issues. First among them is the comprehensive land use plan. Then we have a comprehensive water and sewer plan that we have to work on. Other than that, we have better access to health care, lower cost of health care, public safety, public transportation. Those are the key issues that I see facing us this year, and I ask for your vote and your support so we can get this done.
I'm Pete Lesher, and I'm running for re-election to Talbot County Council. I'm proud of what I've accomplished over the last 4 years, especially the funding of broadband to every address in the county. I'm running for re-election for the same reasons I ran 4 years ago, to preserve the rural character of the county by channeling development toward the places with existing infrastructure, largely infill growth and redevelopment in our municipalities, to keep Talbot County waters fishable and swimmable by upgrading wastewater systems and improving stormwater management along county roads, and to support our sheriff's deputies and emergency workers, providing the incentives to recruit and retain talent in these vital public service jobs. If I have the honor of serving you over the next 4 years, I will continue to act with civility and respect for all I come into contact with in my work on the council. I'm Pete Lesher.
I'm Lynn Milkey, and I'm running for Talbot County Council. I am running to ensure sensible growth and development, to preserve our rural-oriented way of life, and to protect and defend our county from the dictates of state government in Annapolis that conflicts with our way of life and values. If elected, I would pursue the enactment of an adequate public facilities ordinance, which would require developers to pay the cost of the infrastructure caused by their development. I would pursue a blue ribbon commission to help bring our local hospital into the 21st century and improve our health care. And then I would support affordable housing and tax incentives to bring a young workforce base to Talbot County to cover our first responders, our teachers, our healthcare providers, and also small businesses.
I'm David Montgomery. My wife Esther and I have been in Talbot County for about 30 years. Many of the things we love about this place are being threatened. That's what made me join this race. I believe that my expertise and professional experience can make a difference. This is what I think is needed. We must restrain unreasonable growth. We must protect the Bay. We must maintain public safety and make sure that our schools provide real education, not indoctrination. We must cope with rising inflation and mandates from the state that require increased spending. And we must find a way to do this without raising taxes if at all possible. I spent most of my career designing programs and strategies that accomplish real results at minimum cost. I have a PhD in economics from Harvard. I rose to the top levels of the civil service in Washington, and I was assistant director of the Congressional Budget Office. In the private sector, I spent 30 years advising clients and analyzing and critiquing budget policies, regulatory policies, and tax policies. I think my expertise can help to preserve and protect what we want in Talbot County, and I hope you will give me a chance to do that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wade Strickland, and I'm running for Talbot County Council. We must create opportunities for our younger population. Affordable housing is key in keeping younger people in our communities. Job creation by nurturing technology and clean manufacturing is necessary to bring higher paying jobs for our workforce. I feel one of the most important things is to preserve our rural way of life. We need controlled growth that follows our comprehensive plan. We must have governmental oversight asking our developers, how is your development going to support the future infrastructure needs associated with your project? Thank you for your time. If you would like more information, please reach out at citizensforwadestrickland.com or on Facebook at Citizens for Wade Strickland. Thanks a lot.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Al Bond. I'm the CEO of the Avalon Foundation, and I want to welcome everybody here tonight. This building has been a gathering place for this community for 100 years now. We're celebrating our 100th year. And when people think about the Avalon Foundation, they think of us often as an arts presenter. And certainly that is a huge part of what we do. But we think of ourselves as being an organization that is about building a stronger community. The arts are the tools in our toolbox. So whether it's Plein Air Easton or live performances here, we had a great one last night, that is how we convene community. And so when we were thinking about this as a gathering place and what it could mean in terms of participating in the local election, we thought it was a really appropriate way of both using our facility and we have a lot of technical ability. The Avalon is a gathering place for everyone. It is super important to us that is always going to be the case. And so you should know that we are not endorsing any candidate. We never will. But we are really, I personally am really grateful for all of these people. It is far too easy to complain loudly, and it is an entirely different thing to step forward and offer yourself in service to solve problems. And that is what all these people are trying to do. So I want to welcome our candidates. Again, thank you all for being here this evening. I think it's really important that we all participate in our civic life. And from there, I'm going to say thank you to Dave Wheelan, who came to us with this idea of organizing this town hall. And when we first started talking about it, we thought there's a place for this. There's a need. And so thanks, Dave, for really stepping forward and helping us to bring it all together.
Thanks. Al, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be working with the Avalon during this critical election season. And we hope that there will be more opportunities like this in the future. And giving you a little bit of a quiz with the back of these cards. So you can sign up for the Avalon, sign up for the Spy, you can make a modest donation supporting programs like this, and there's one other that may not after tonight, the candidates' opening statements will be available. Our Q code that you see in the card. I'm so grateful tonight that everyone here gets to meet a dear friend of the Spy, Craig Fuller. Craig gave me an email maybe about 5 years ago saying that he would love to have maybe some photography that he's done in the Spy. Immediately I Googled his name and it turned out quite a background, well beyond his photography skills. And Craig has been a primary political advisor to both President Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. He's been the CEO of 2 significant trade organizations in Washington. He has been living in Talbot County for the last 7 years. And it's amazing to see this level of citizenship for someone who has come here. He's now serving as the, did that came out the wrong way? So, but he's now serving as chair of the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum. He's on the Academy Art Museum board. He's on the Benedictine board. And he's humbled us tonight by facilitating this conversation. A warm welcome to Craig Fuller. Thank you.
Dave, thank you very much. Al, thank you. Thank you for sponsoring this. The good news is I am not running for office. A good friend of mine said, my goodness, how are you going to do this? How are you going to learn all those issues that these people talk about? And I go, actually, I just ask the questions. They have to deliver the answers. This is a town hall conversation, meaning that we're going to have an exchange. We've really had a kind of remarkable community outpouring of interest in this. Over 360 people, many of you, I'm sure, returned a survey that indicated what questions you'd like to ask the candidates. We shared the topics with all of the candidates. We have not shared the questions. The questions are kind of up to me, and the order in which we ask them is up to me. But I am absolutely convinced, having spent some amount of time now getting to kind of know these individuals, that we're going to have a stimulating conversation. I'd ask only a couple things. One, that if you hear something and want to react, hold on. At the end, you can react loudly and thank them for all being here. My personal views are not going to be expressed with the exception of one view, and that is I share with Dave and Al the sense that we are very fortunate in this county to have individuals of this caliber willing to stand up and serve on the county council and work on behalf of all of us. And I think that'll come through in tonight's conversation. So let's get started. And Chuck, I'm going to start with you. This really is a remarkable place. But about 500 square miles, 38,000 people in this county. We all treasure it, and you all talk about how special it is. You've now been on the council for 2 terms, president, last couple of years, seeking a 3rd term. I kind of want to start with a discussion about the 30,000-foot level. What is the essence? What is so significant about Talbot County that you want to make sure we preserve, protect, and further?
First of all, I want to welcome everybody. Really appreciate you being here. Appreciate the candidates being here, and Craig and Dave. Thanks a lot for putting this together, and it's a big deal for everybody. And yes, it is hard being up here, and it's been not in my wheelhouse for 8 years, but I've done my best. Probably one of the most important things is trying to balance things out and work for you guys. Like I said, I'm born and raised here, went to school here, and you'll see that on my video. But there's just a lot of internal things that we have to look at it. The environment, the schools, the safety, the sheriff, the ambulance. There's just tons of things that are very important to all of us, because all of us have an individual place that we want to try to balance and see how the council is doing things. And we're always judged on voting one way or the other, and it's tough. It's tough making decisions. I feel like I do very well making decisions. But to answer your question, I'm passionate about Talbot County. I'm not going anywhere. I would love to do a term again and help and work for you guys. So that's what I'd like to do.
Pete, you talk about kind of the moral character of this county, and I wondered if you would expand on that. To this question of what is it about Talbot County that's special? What is it that you want to protect about moral character, if I got the term right?
The rural character of this county is something that I think stands out. Well, you might say, well, the Eastern Shore is rural generally. Western Maryland, Southern Maryland are rural parts of this state. But I will say to you, and I think you will recognize, that when you drive across down 50 from Queen Anne's County into Talbot County, something is perceptibly different. For one thing, you don't see as many billboards along the side, and you won't see any more because we're not allowed anymore. We've figured that into our zoning code. We have said outdoor advertising is something that is not part of our character. The way we build here, where we build here, in our communities, in our villages, and not sprawling across the landscape, is part of that rural character. Farming, agriculture is key. This is an agricultural county going back all the way, frankly, pre-contact, right? There was agriculture going on here by the natives in this place. It is so important today to our economy, even though there are fewer people working in agriculture than it once took to plant and harvest crops. It is still our major land use and should continue to be. And also, Talbot County has more working watermen than any other county in Maryland. Any other county. The quality of our water and the quality of our oyster beds and the quality of our fishing grounds around here are important, and that's something that lends to our rural character. When you go into the landings in some of the rural parts of this county, all of those things, I think, are part of what collectively add up to the rural character of this county that I think is so special and deserving of protection.
Pete. Michelle, you described yourself as an activist candidate, and you got engaged, as I understand it, by bringing computers to the classroom. Pretty impressive at a young age, and now running for county council. What is it about the community that you find so special?
Well, I want to echo both Pete and Chuck for just thanking everyone for coming here. It's one of the things that I actually think is the most impressive about the community here is how much Talbot is engaged with itself, with each other, and speaking on the behalf of, well, the laptops, I guess, yes, but just ever since I came here when I was a kid, I have noticed that we get involved, we get excited, we get active, as you say, about being a community that takes care of each other, takes care of its own, looks out for each other. I think that's a very critical part of our rural character, honestly, that, watermen have hard lives, sometimes farmers have hard lives. It is backbreaking work, it is long days, and we look out for each other because that is in our ethos as a people of Talbot County. Thank you.
Bill, you came here not all that long ago, and now you've gotten sort of headlong into a local land use issue, which we'll talk about. But what brought you here? What was it that kind of drew you to the community?
Yeah, my wife Emily and I, we kind of charted our course down the eastern seaboard. We both went to school in Boston. We moved to Washington, D.C. We moved to Baltimore City, and we were looking for somewhere that we could call home for our family. We have 4 children here. I'll echo Michelle's sentiments. I think something that I noticed when we moved here that was so remarkable when our son Christopher was out on the baseball field at Chapel District Elementary School. The families and the people, there is a strong willingness to come together around the community. And I think that transcends your politics, it transcends your race, your gender. It is a wonderful thing that I feel is just a remarkable facet of living.
there's a lot to be said. There's this intersection of agriculture and fishing, and a wonderful town, Easton, that kind of stands in the center amongst smaller towns around the outskirts. My community, the preserve at Y Mills, is surrounded by this year cornfields that have just been harvested. Watching those cornfields kind of follow their course through the winter and into the early, or through the summer and into the early fall is just something that's really remarkable and a reminder of just how special Eastern.
Isha, you've been involved in local government for some time, and now you've gone and created a foundation to, I think, meet some of the special needs here. But how do you view the community? What's your focus been?
So, being a native of Talbot County, being born and raised here, I believe the people are the fabric of Talbot County. As many of my colleagues have said, when we are in a crunch, we do come together to make things happen in the community. This morning, I was with the Waterman community. My grandfather was a waterman in Bellevue, and I had the opportunity to go through Bellevue today, and it was just a reminder of just being there with my grandfather, going out on the boat with him, being on Gate Street. Those are the things that kept me and my family here. So my husband and I decided to stay here, raise our 3 children here, and it's the people, it's the water. Agriculture has been mentioned. That's the #1 industry in the state. The farmers are important to this community. The watermen are important to this community. The seafood industry is the 2nd largest in the state as well. But it's the people. My family and I had a house fire. Everyone rallied around us to help us, to support us. My colleagues in Dorchester County, they started a fund to ensure that we had what we needed for the kids to go back to school and what I needed to go back to work. So it is definitely the community. When they came to the house and pulled our cat out that did not survive, they didn't ask me what party I was. I didn't ask them. It's the community. That is the very fabric of Talbot County, the people.
Thank you. Dave, you're putting kids through school and you're working with young people coaching. I know that. Again, what's your feeling about the county? What's so special about it?
Well, I mean, it's, before I begin, again, as someone else has mentioned here too, thank you all for actually coming and showing a local interest in our county. It means the world. So thank you all very much for doing that. Thank you to everyone also putting the event on. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned the volunteer work community here. I mean, that's what this is about. I mean, I don't need to repeat everything my colleagues have said up here before, but we need to put ourselves out there. I volunteered a lot in the community with regards to our youth. They're our next generation. They're our next generation of workers, family members, friends, and neighbors. If we're not investing in our kids and our safety, in their safety, we're not doing the right thing. This is just a wonderful place to live and work. I mean, there's a reason you all are here. There's a reason you all chose to make this home. Same reasons my family and I do. And that's it. Pretty simple. Thank you.
David, I've seen you say a few times that you really want this place to be what it was 30 years ago when you came here and protect that kind of environment. Well, I mean, I wasn't here. What was it like 30 years ago? What is it? What's the essence that you're focused on?
Well, thank you, and thank you all for being here. I think what I want to keep is the feeling that we've bought our first place here just about 30 years ago. For more than half of that time, we drove over the Bay Bridge to get here once a week, and the feeling there was we're in a completely different world once we get off the bridge. And the second feeling was when we got to our house and the cat and the dog went inside and took up their places, and Esther and I came in and sat down by the fire and said, this is where we're home. This is the place where we feel at home. We just go work somewhere else. And so that's the feeling I want to retain. And so I have to reflect on what is it that added up to that. And everything that people have said here is what adds up to it. The community, the connections among people, the way we come together in friendships and working in organizations that do good without being told by the government to do it. Those are great things to me. Its history, which I've learned more and more about in the last 2 years, is something that I also want to preserve, the reminders and the records of. And the farms, the woodlands, the open fields, the habitat, the clean water. I was a sailor for many years. I'm now an avid hunter. That gives me a personal interest in preserving the things that make that possible. But it's true, the rural character of our county and the nature of the county, the fundamental economic base for that is agriculture and seafood industries. And I don't see how we can preserve all the rest of the things that we like about the county unless we keep those as fundamental, which means there needs to be a livelihood for those farmers to keep the fields that we like, and there needs to be an opportunity on the bay for those that bring in the seafood that we like.
David, Len, maybe this kind of slides right into you, because I know you've been a lawyer and have been involved in the judicial process and all that, but I heard one of the programs you moved in, kind of got involved with a farm family. So agriculture to your family is near and dear. But what that and what else about this county is special to you?
I grew up in Long Island, and I came to the Eastern Shore in 1968 to go to Washington College. And Long Island, I saw insensible development. I saw big box stores, shopping centers, and it destroyed the way of life that I enjoyed when I lived on Long Island. So after I went to law school, the place I wanted to come was Eastern Shore, and specifically Talbot County, because it did have that way of life. I am committed to that. One of the best advantages of this county is safety. It's a safe place to live. It's physically safe, it's financially safe, and it's emotionally safe. I talked about driving across the Bay Bridge. When I would come from the Western Shore for various reasons, there would be this calmness that would come over me as I crossed eastbound span. In terms of physical safety, we have a great sheriff. We have a great Easton Police Department. We have great first responders. That needs to be preserved. And then finally, financially, we have a modified tax cap. We have a county government that's committed to being frugal. All that needs to be preserved. But with the threatened development that is headed this way, that is just deja vu all over again from Long Island, I'm very concerned about that. So the most important thing in my book is to preserve Talbot County as a safe place.
Thank you. Scott, we're going to be last in this round, but first, shortly here. You bring a lot of business experience, a lot of environmental experience. What drew you to the county, and what are you most, what the essence of this county means, what to you?
Thanks for that, Craig, and thanks for everybody for coming to this event. I guess I think about Talbot County. My first experience with Talbot County was coming by boat. There was no bridge, and we came across on the ferry as we went through Talbot County to go to Rehoboth Beach on our annual family vacation. And it was first just driving through, but as I drove through, it captured me more and more. And looking at the beautiful scenery going by, stopping at restaurants, meeting the people in those areas was really amazing to me. And when my wife and I first met in Washington, D.C. in Chevy Chase, we said, let's try the Eastern Shore. The bridge was built, it was easier to get here, but it was a place that we eventually bought, and we wanted to raise our family where we could have the advantages of sailing, the wonderful things that we've talked about here, and having a family life in Talbot County was so important. As I come to the next phase, and we've moved here permanently, it's amazing to me how many great people there are here and how many wonderful people I've met with the perspectives all the way from high government service, Craig, such as yourself, to people that have worked in places across the world and in very interesting areas. And it's contributed to my intellectual growth. And the people that I meet are so engaging. They've extended my thought horizon tremendously. So I think of the people that we have here and the people that come here and get dedicated to the county to build organizations. We have something like 250 nonprofits in this county, and that's all because of you that become engaged and want to make Talbot County a better place to live. I think of the things that I've done in my career, which is the question that you asked, and it's given me the chance to expand my horizons. When I came over here, I had no idea that I was going to start a solar company and build solar for people on the Eastern Shore. But it became a natural growth out of what I was doing, and the opportunity was here for me to start a small business and grow. And I got encouragement from all of you who looked at what I was doing and said, yeah, this makes sense. And that's the kind of environment, nurturing environment that I think is so important, and we need to continue.
Thank you. So we don't necessarily have to get answers from every one of you on every one of these topics, but if you want to dive in, you're certainly welcome to. I'd like to kind of stay at the maybe 25,000 foot level for a moment and go quickly, drill down a little bit. We're going to get to some specific issues as we go. And Pete, I think I'll start with you. The thing I'm curious about, because you all have this remarkable shared, I think probably with everybody here, appreciation for this county, is when you look out ahead, what opportunities do you see? What's sitting out there that could be a real opportunity for this county going forward, so over the course of a 4-year term, let's say?
We need to recognize and seize these opportunities, of course. The first, and of course it's well underway already, is rural broadband, which I think is the most transformational moment in the quality of life for this county that we've been able that we will have. We now have it fully funded to get to every address that's currently unserved in the county. That's a big accomplishment by the current council. I think that we still have some distance to go in ensuring the build out in a timely fashion. We do need to meet those goals. We're largely reliant on our engineers and our partners over at Eastern Utilities in making sure that that happens. But this is an opportunity. If we didn't recognize how important this was before, surely the pandemic rammed that message home to all of us, how important it was not only for schooling, but also for work. And the fact that so many white-collar jobs now can be done from almost anywhere, at least part of the time. And if that means that somebody's not commuting and they're not on the roads, that can be of benefit to this place. Now, looking forward, the foundation is in place to accomplish that already, and that does not need to be the task of the next of the next council. What does need to be the task, I believe, is leaps forward in water quality, and we have the tools to do that. We have the technology to do that, and we've got to move forward on multiple fronts with that. I've seen what we can do with best management practices in ag, where dollar for dollar we can make more gains than in anything else. I've seen what we can do with the county's plan for ditch retrofits along county roadways and what that means for slowing the flow and dropping before the stormwater reaches our tidewater. We can really clean it up. And where that has been done, we've seen improvements in water quality in places like Trips Creek. And then there's, of course, sewer upgrades. We've got to upgrade Tillman. That is a county-owned and operated facility. We're probably going to do that, according to the studies we have now, by connecting it to St. Michael's, where we have an enhanced nutrient reduction plant, and by connecting failing septics in places like the Bosman-Nevitt corridor do that. That's where we need to, that is our opportunity, and that's where I think we need to invest a lot of our energy over the next 4 years.
I should say two things. One, it's okay to agree with other candidates. And secondly, for the audience, there are campaign signs appearing behind you, behind the candidates. This is not in any way an endorsement or a political message. This is kind of give us a flavor of the campaign. Keisha, you've got a foundation focused on hope. And hope suggests that you see opportunities for the community. I wondered if you would talk a little bit about the opportunities as you see them out there.
Sure. So HOPE stands for Helping Others Prosper and Excel, first of all. And we serve sixth graders at Easton Middle School. So we teach them soft skills and how to be sustainable as an adult. So I've created a curriculum for them that is a 16-week program. We work with the schools to identify the students. And then these young ladies go through the program from January through May. So they are being taught how to interview, how to be viable contributors to the workforce. And I think that's very important because we see in the economic development profession that a lot of adults do not know how to call in properly, if they're going to be sick, how to report to work on time. So those are some soft skills that they lack as adults that we found in the profession. But my focus not only is on that, but also economic development. 80% of the time spent doing economic development should be retaining of existing businesses, because existing businesses are the drivers that create more jobs. So I really do see the next council having an opportunity to really shore up the economic development offices and partner with the town of Easton Economic Development so that we can start getting businesses in here. We all want our kids that grow up here to stay here, but they have to have a place to work if they don't want to commute across the Bay Bridge, but they also have to have a place to live. So we need businesses that are going to pay them above sustainable wages.
Thank you. Chuck, I am full of admiration for somebody who serves 2 terms, challenging as they might have been, and is now seeking the 3rd. Are there things you want to get done? Are there opportunities out there that you don't think you've been able to capture yet? How do you look at the next 4 years?
So I look at the next 4 years. We've got some stuff in place now. So I think really the water quality issue that we've got a couple of resolutions that are in place now. We've got Resolution 235 and 250 in place, and on board with upgrading around 1,000 failing septic in the Bay 100 area. So that's huge for us. Some other things that we've got in place here, funding for a new ambulance place in Cordova. So we're putting funds together, $1 million worth of funds to fund safety. We've just bought a new ambulance. We've also put in the budget $500,000 for the fire department. So we've done so much as a council, and looking forward to the next council to establish safety when it comes to Sheriff Joe Gamble. Everybody knows, if you don't know now, we've bought a new safety complex out to Mary's Court. We're getting ready to sign the contract and take over that piece of property of the old Avon Dixon building, which is a huge accomplishment on this council. And we're getting ready to start another contract on the new health department. And you'll get ready to see that. And it's around 25,000 square feet or so. So that's the next accomplishment that we're doing. But the council's doing really good work in setting some goals for the next council to build from.
Thank you. Scott, I was fascinated by the whole premise of more solar power for the county. So I'm sure that when you think of opportunities, you think solar, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, thank you for that, Craig. Yeah, solar is certainly an opportunity. And to just recap what some of the others have said, when you use the term opportunity means how are you going to fix the problems that you have, because those are opportunities that are holding you back, versus leveraging the opportunities that are going to carry you forward and opportunities of progress. And solar is one of those. So specifically to your question, solar is something near and dear to my heart, and I could give you the numbers on it, but just take one. Every house in Easton and Talbot County, if we just had solar on the roof of each house, that would serve the needs of each house. Solar has become so productive that it doesn't take a lot of land or anything. And that's a challenge that I think we should ascribe to. California says that every house should have solar on the roof. If we did the same thing, that would solve the energy problem immediately in Talbot County. Electric cars is another way to go. If you put solar on the roof, you can charge your car and you don't have to use gasoline. You don't have to pollute, because a car pollutes through the exhausts, and it also delivers heat to the environment. So basically, over the next 10 years, that's going to happen very quickly with the advances in technology, and I'm looking forward to being part of that. But more broadly, the opportunities that we have here in Talbot County depend on our natural resources: water, land, and our resources that are people. 4 of us here started our mornings at 7 o'clock down at Chesapeake Landing talking to the Watermen's Association. And they have a whole different set of issues, and they're looking to expand the economy of Talbot County through fishing, crabbing, oystering, and they see some challenges, and I think all of us committed to let's help those people, because those are good jobs, and that's where we should leverage Talbot County to go. The land, our farming is a great resource, and the farmers need support so that the land produces the way we want the land to produce, provides the jobs for our children. And that leads to my final thought on opportunity. The opportunity is the people. We have great people here, wonderful people with wonderful educations and backgrounds, and kids that are just really excited to go do things. We need to leverage that opportunity, find jobs for people that tie to what people want to do so that they can stay here, they get affordable housing to stay, and have an opportunity to stay and raise families and really participate in what is a wonderful economy, wonderful Talbot County.
You know, I like, David, I like that formula that an opportunity is really solving a problem. And you've said you'd bring economic principles to solving real world problems based on your considerable background in the field. So let's spin off of what Scott said, and where do you think that can be applied here in Talbot County, the involvement of economic principles, and what kind of problems could you address and turn into opportunities?
I know you're not going to be interested in a lengthy debate between me and Scott, but as an energy and environmental economist, we have fundamental disagreements about the role of solar energy.
I knew
about
we
the
would
cost.
get to this at some point. This is good.
And of electric vehicles, both of in many dimensions, but let's just say the economics and the environmental impacts of those. And that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years. So I'll defer that until our moderator asks us to actually dig into it, because I think that the other areas in which my thinking about things, but I think that we all apply economics in some ways, as long as we keep in mind that what economics is about is understanding that everything is a trade-off, that if we want more of one good thing that we value, we may have to put up with less of another good thing that we value. So that when I hear phrases like affordable housing or save the bay, I find that it doesn't tell me what I need to know. What we need to think about is, what can we do to achieve affordable housing? Where is the market moving things? What would be the secondary consequences of actions that we take there? What do we even mean by the topic? And similarly, thinking about economic development, I actually think that Keisha's idea that we should be building on economic businesses works, because in The Economist, I've seen how many times we go wrong when we try to hold back the market. And then there's finally the great development issue. And thinking about that one from 30,000 feet as an economist, I look down from 30,000 feet, or 500, I see farms, I see shorelines, I see roofs, I see asphalt pavement, and I see solar systems. And the big economic question for us here is, how can we keep all those other things that we value in the county if we are watching those farms and shorelines shrink and the roofs and asphalt and solar panels expand? And there are a whole lot of issues about that, which we call how we can go about managing development. And that's something that I think economic thinking is absolutely necessary for.
Good, thanks. And we're going to focus a little on development and a little more on development in just a minute. Lynn, how about you? Opportunities out there.
Okay, I'd like to address too, like Dave, the issue of climate change for our county and what we need to do about it. The legislature has passed a new bill that has certain requirements. On the other hand, some of the proposals, in fact, I think Mike Pompeo today said that there are elements that are trying to run this country on sunshine and windmills, and it ain't going to work. It's not that I'm an anti-climate change person, but as far as solar energy is concerned, and there's such a focus on it, with all due respect to you, Scott, that it doesn't work at night. It doesn't work on cloudy days. It doesn't work in the early morning. It doesn't work late in the afternoon. Solar panels are powerless 16 out of 21 hours a day on average. And it's a wealth-destroying technology. I mean, what is the effect on Eastern Utilities, which is a great service here to the town? What's going to be the effect of that? So there has to be a balance between all these issues. Yes, we have to meet the requirements of the state legislation, but also we have to look at the effect it's going to have on us. Are we going to have solar panels instead of the great rural vistas? That's something to think about. So I think that there's a lot that the new council is going to have to deal with when it comes to those issues, and I'm ready to take it on. I'm a trained mediator, so I can see both sides of an issue and find a middle ground that is at least a prospect of success.
I may need your help before the night's over. Let me get Michelle in here, because or did you? Oh, Keisha, okay, Keisha, you jump
Yeah,
in.
I think I need to go back to David's comment about economic development, because economic development provides jobs for our community. So I don't know if Mr. Montgomery is retired or not, but unlike him, my kids need a place to work, and so do I. So the purpose of economic development is to provide jobs. So commercial development, that is what economic development is. So I just want to clarify that for you so that you have an understanding of that if elected to the council.
And we'll come back to that in a minute. Michelle, you've talked during the campaign about new thinking, fresh thinking. Mm-hmm. You come at this with a different perspective. You're obviously in the workforce, or
yes.
So how are you thinking about future opportunities?
So I want to echo something that Pete brought up earlier as far as broadband. It's absolutely fantastic that we have been the first county to now fully fund the expansion of broadband to every single address in Talbot County. We still need to make sure we follow through and do so in an equitable and timely manner, as Pete said. But I think the pandemic drove home another point about what broadband is used for, and that is exactly what you just brought up. My job requires me, I work remotely, and the pandemic brought up the complete gaps in rural access to healthcare, right? So while telehealth can't solve, you can't do an MRI over the broadband, you can have a lot of these gaps in access closed, and thinking creatively about how we can capitalize on this wonderful digital infrastructure we're going to have in economic development, in remote education, in telehealth is one of the major opportunities that I see. I was reading an article about a town that has one traffic light out in the Midwest. It was in the New Yorker. They have the fastest broadband in the country. And because of that, Amazon and other major telecommunications planted themselves there, and it has become one of the fastest growing industries, even though they still have like one traffic light, and they have completely preserved their rural character without needing to expand with sprawl and destroy farmland and destroy green spaces that are so vital to our community. So that is pretty much the major opportunity that I see.
Thanks. And the discussion of healthcare is obviously an important one. Phil, I know we talk a lot about your experience in the community dealing with wastewater, but I believe technology and healthcare are really in your background. Maybe there's some opportunities you see there that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I mean, they are. I spent, I've lived here for over a decade. I spent 13 years working with Chesapeake Medical Imaging as their chief technology officer. And in that role, we brought 2 outpatient radiology practices to Chestertown and Easton, Maryland. And that was done, at a time where healthcare was very different. We were able to invest in technology, invest in real estate, and bring great providers into our communities. That's changed. We've seen the pendulum swing in healthcare from entrepreneurial healthcare providers, much like my grandfather, who exchanged chickens for healthcare services and did what he needed to do to leave a mark in the community, to a time now where large healthcare organizations consolidate and acquire healthcare practices, make it difficult for healthcare providers to work and deliver services, and make it difficult to bring the services we need into the communities. That is an area that I think we have a responsibility, should I be fortunate to join the future council, that we need to invest in. The University of Maryland healthcare system has a certificate of need. They have an obligation to make an investment in our hospital that is here. And that is something that we need to see happen. We need to see healthcare providers in this community, and we need to do what we can to make sure that those healthcare providers want to come. That is a major challenge facing us, and something that I think we need, folks to start thinking about.
Thanks, Phil. Dave, you've spoken over the course of the campaign about the importance of small business, and we haven't talked a lot about that, but I wondered if maybe you could talk about where you see opportunities for small business in the county.
Sure. I mean, I can certainly address small business, but I have a few others that I'd like to address as well that I don't think have been brought up yet. So in regards to small business, my family and I, we're small business owners ourselves. We own 2 small businesses. It's the lifeblood of our community. I mean, without small business, this just does not exist. They're pillars in our community. They're volunteers. They're neighbors. They get us what we need. I mean, without small business, we're shot. We have a lot of commercial development going on here. Keisha, I heard you mention economic development. Very important. We have a lot going on. Let's fill that. Let's fill that with folks who, let's fill that with doctors' offices, because last time I checked, a lot of folks in this room and a lot of folks in our community have problems getting a primary care physician, or have problems with emergency services. So let's make sure we fill it with top-notch folks that can serve our community in that area. A couple others that I'd like to address. We have some issues here in Talbot County that need to be addressed, some of which are coming to us from Annapolis, others of which are coming down from federal mandates and whatnot. But first one I'd like to address is just our attack on law enforcement. I mean, we have bills like House Bill 670 that comes to us from Annapolis, which is bringing, just big city problems to small town living with this police accountability board that had to start on July 1st. Again, big city problems to small town communities. Sheriff Joe, thank you. I see you in the back there. Thank you for coming tonight. But there's these attacks are ridiculous. We do not have these issues here. We should leave that to our local law enforcement leaders to make the decisions to discipline their officers within departments. So again, we don't need these big city problems here. Our schools, our schools, we need to make sure they're funded fully. There's programs that are in our schools like critical race theory that have no business being in Talbot County Public Schools. I like props. Right here, I hold $509,000 worth of receipts that we've spent with our taxpayer dollars towards critical race theory issues here in Talbot County's public schools. It's really dividing our schools, and we need to make sure that we get rid of programs such as that. So yeah, there's a couple issues that I think we need to address.
The focus is to try to hold back the pressures of state government? Is that part of the message? Great. I want to, we kind of opened up a little bit of a debate on economic development. I'd like to go back there and Scott, I'm actually going to start with you because you've talked about having a smart county, and I know that's not, it goes beyond solar, but I guess when I say drill down, I mean, here we are, 38,000 people. 10 years ago, 38,000 people. You're all talking about concerns about how to grow. We'll get into that. I'll give you that chance. I want you to do more of that. But how do we provide the economic development and growth and yet retain the quality of life that you're all speaking about? It. Why don't you kick this one off?
Very easy question, Craig. Thank you. Economic development. Well, a couple of things, and you tied it to technology. So technology is a driver that can help economic development in a number of ways. Some of the very specific ways, just look at the Talbot County website. I mean, to me, it's unfathomable. I don't know if you can find it, but I can't even find what the agenda for the next county council meeting is. So we need to turn that around with better technology and a push technology. So if you're interested, for instance, in the county agenda for the meeting that evening, it is already pushed to you on your phone because the website knows you're interested in that. And so you receive things proactively. That's just one example. We also have today, by Microsoft's count, there are over 1 million apps on your phone. Talbot County needs an app. We have an EMS app. I don't know if anybody knows that, and you can find a few things on there. But you need an app that's going to show you where the buses stop on the transportation system. You need an app to tell you about facilities in the county. You need an app if you're disadvantaged and looking for affordable housing, how to find that effectively. The county needs an app to bring technology to its people. I would also address, I think we missed the boat by not understanding how effective technology is and can be. I mean, we've had some discussions that say we should stick with the older technology. Oil was discovered by Alfred Drake in Titusville, Pennsylvania in 1851. We then had gasoline established by the Rockefellers, and that led to the automobile. We've still got that technology with us after 170 years or something like that. I know of no other technology that's lasted that period of time. We need to acknowledge that fossil fuel cars are the buggy whips of today. And we need to start thinking about new ways that we can harness technology. Once you get to cars that are smart, just think what happens with Uber. How many Uber cars do we have in Talbot County? I asked the question, I don't know that there are that many, but we should have smart cars that are able to take people where they want to go. And if you aren't using your car, you ought to be able to just sign it and let somebody else use it as a service and pay you. Not everybody has to do that, but you can say, use my car and it'll take you wherever you want, and then it returns to my garage. That way we can solve the transportation problem that Pete talks about and get an efficient technology that's going to really function to make Talbot County what it really could. Those are just a few ideas. You've asked a very broad question. I took a couple of quick examples.
Well, you got everybody has a chance now to comment on some of that. Keisha, I can tell you're passionate about economic development, and explain why and how do we get the economic development we need and also maintain the environment we want?
Well, I would not want to step on Cassandra's toes at all, but I'm a little biased about economic development, having done it for 21 years. But I promise you, those that think that I want to tear down cornfields for the sake of commercial development are mistaken, because that's not what economic development is. That's not what we do as economic development professionals. So my colleague here and I just had a quick question for Chuck, because we have places where development can be done and where economic development can be put into. One, redevelopment and reuse of existing businesses, right? Buildings that are vacant, things of that nature. That's one way economic development can be done. And then the other is the Mistletoe Business Park, where the public facility complex is going. So, business parks, technology parks, those are ways that we as economic development professionals really drive, commercial development to provide jobs for the community. So, that is the one thing that I would like to see more of and see Cassandra's office do, but she needs the staff in order to do that.
So Chuck, we got to pull you into this.
I see they did.
There are some vacant buildings. How do you spell Safeway? There are some opportunities to use space in not just Easton, but in other communities. Is that viable from your perspective?
So I think so talking about economic development, it's extremely important, like Keisha said, but at the end of the day, everybody has to understand that that is sort of a municipality situation. The county doesn't do economic development in commercial land. So that's what we have to understand. So we need to support all the towns, if it would be St. Michael's or Easton, or there's not much going on in Oxford other than a little bit of stuff, but not much. Nothing. Nobody's touching Oxford. Just okay. So don't get worried. Okay. So
I had breakfast at Pope's Tavern.
Exactly. So, and that's great. So, but I think we need to support it. I think Cassandra, she's head of economic development and tourism. So those two are combined. So they sort of work together. The council, a couple councils ago, we put those together because they go hand in hand. We want people to come here, we want them to relocate here, and we want them to work here. So it's really important that the public and the council knows that they go hand in hand, and we need to support the towns to have that happen.
Pete, I saw you raise your mic, but I want to pull you into this. But you talk about a town center focus. I thought I knew what that meant, but maybe it means something else. I thought it meant focus on development where the infrastructure is located. But talk about that and how we develop maybe from the center out.
Well, we are fortunate in that we have municipal partners, particularly in Easton, that have been investing in the downtown and have been seeing and have been fostering redevelopment in an area where there already is development. But let me flip that also to this kind of jobs creation that we're seeing in traditional economic development. So often what gets left out in economic development, we think about economic development as business attraction. But the other piece of it that's really important is business retention and business expansion. And we've got a couple of examples of that, how we have done that effectively in this community by eliminating the manufacturing equipment excise tax, which allowed Afina Pharmaceutical Solutions to relocate and take over Consul Pharmaceuticals and expand their operation here, creating more than 100 new jobs in an existing industrial park, Clifton Industrial Park over there off of Dover Road. We didn't chew up new land to do that. Now, we've recognized that there isn't enough industrial land available to be able to to create these jobs. And so the county has collaborated with the town in creating the Mistletoe Hall Industrial Park, in getting the infrastructure out there, which is, if you will, yes, it is greenfield development, but it is also kind of within the developed area. It's between the town and the airport. It's an area that I think makes sense to do this, and does allow us to offer more opportunities. But this kind of growth within the municipalities, and particularly in our county seat of Easton, where I think a lot of those opportunities lie, is really the place to do this. This is where we have the water sewer infrastructure that, frankly, a lot of these industries absolutely require. You can't do this out in the middle of the landscape. We wouldn't want to do it out there. It only makes sense in and close to
already developed areas.
David, I know this is kind of in your wheelhouse, and you focused a lot on that. Give us your perspective. How do we go about thoughtful development in this community?
Well, economists do have a reputation for kind of raining on parades, and I would like to talk about the positive aspects of development. We certainly can manage some level of growth within Talbot County, which creates, which is both additional jobs and additional population, and that will make all of us better off. Let's not forget tourism, restaurants, the great things that are growing in all of our towns. But I've heard a lot of great ideas about things that would be wonderful to have. Some of them more fantasies about cars that drive themselves, which I actually did a substantial amount of research about, and it's not something this county council is going to be able to buy in the next 4 years. What would be really nice would be if we could buy gasoline and diesel fuel for our trucks and cars at what we were paying for it 2 years ago, before the green agenda of the Biden administration drove those prices up from $2 to $5.
Hey, folks,
But in general, in order to talk about economic development and we need to ask who's going to pay for these things. And the paying can come in many different forms. I am much more concerned at this point about residential development, that every new job, or say every two new jobs that we create here, is going to require another housing unit or more for those people who are taking the jobs. So if we want to have lots of new jobs and lots of new housing development, how much of our farmland and are we willing to give up for that? If we want to preserve the open spaces that we have now and restrict residential development, well, the market has something to say about that. The more we restrict it, the higher prices there are going to be. And that's the way the economics works here. And that's what we need to work our way through in order to try to weave our way through this to find incentives and ways of managing growth that give us the balance that we want.
Thank you. Michelle, one of the comments that struck me as interesting, and one of the statements you made, was that you really believe in and want to pursue on the county council economic justice. And I think that is part and parcel to the question of how do we make sure across the board, when we have economic growth opportunities, that the whole community participates in some way or benefits in some way. But why don't you lay that thought out a little bit for us?
Yeah, so that is what I mean. Especially, the former council did a wonderful job where they took the first long overdue step to passing legislation that adopted a DEI statement into the employee handbook. As a member of my own company's diversity and equity inclusion committee, what that means in a marketing job frequently is looking at vendors that are minority businesses, minority owned. I know there is a wonderful one downtown called Deco Steffi that I absolutely adore that does balloons and things. So if anyone has a need for that kind of decoration at a family party, please go there. But looking for vendors that are from those communities and making sure that, when we at the county, if we were to do requests for proposals, right, any type of economic development with the municipalities, or that we make sure we are being proactive and looking and not just kind of, I know right now we're very lucky if we get like 2 bids on many of the proposals. So making sure that we're going after them ourselves, that we're looking for vendors and not just asking them to come to us, because that's what I do at my job, and make sure that we find as many diverse partners that we can share these burdens with. And that's one of the things that I think about when I think about economic justice. So I really appreciate that question.
Thanks. In this economic development sphere, Phil, I'm going to come to you. I want to come to you. And a lot of it, and it's been referred to, involves land development. You're part of a residential land development area where you've run into all kinds of problems. Are there ways to avoid that? What kind of lessons have been learned, perhaps, from the experience you've gone through in the development of a residential area?
Yeah, in 2004, my wife and I decided to build in the preserve at Y Mills, which is a lovely community. Acre lots, homes that you could build. There was a real, I think, vision for that community that was rooted in goodness. We didn't know what a wastewater treatment plant was. We just knew that we needed to flush our toilets. That's a good thing when your toilets flush, and that's what we were looking for. Several years later, I became involved on our homeowners association as the president, and kind of unpacked what was a serious issue with our wastewater treatment plant. And wastewater treatment plants are built to support the needs of community developments where they can't perk, where it's expensive to run pipes from sewers in municipal areas. And they, on paper, are built with technology that is, fantastic, that can help you turn waste from homes into drinking water, that you can then spray, irrigate, cornfields with, for example, and help facilitate agriculture. The fact of the matter is, even with great technology, and I sell technology for a living, and I share this with my customers, you need great people, you need compliance. There are a lot of things that go around the edges of technology to make it work. And we, a lot of systems, a lot of technology just didn't work the way we needed it to. Our system has been out of compliance on and off for several years now. And we've spent the last 3 years working with our county council to transition that plant so that the county can seek bay restoration funds to build a new plant, so that the county can leverage their public works capabilities and knowledge to make that plant work better and more functional. And that's incredibly important. We're doing that by way of putting in place a shared water sewer district with the efforts of the County Council, Resolution 326. And that means that the homeowners in that community will be financially responsible for that plant. The operating and maintenance costs will be a burden of the homeowners, but we hope that the vision and the Public Works Department that our county has will help us chart a course forward. This is important. We have another community that is being developed just up Route 50. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, where a similar wastewater treatment plant will be built. And if we are not conscientious, if we don't learn from the lessons that we've had in our past and make sure that community can be successful, those homeowners will be left holding the bag. The 53 homeowners in our community have spent over $100,000 in the last 3 years returning our plant to something that is still not compliant, but better than it was. The investments on behalf of individuals moving into communities can be significant. And it is an area that I think I can uniquely bring knowledge and capability to our future council, given the experiences that I've had dealing with poop. So that's, that's my story.
On that note, we've got about 20 minutes, and I kind of want to move. Dave, I want to give you a chance. Anything on economic development you'd like to touch on? Lynn?
Just briefly. We talk about economic development, which seems to have been focused in recent years on shopping centers in Easton. And you talk about facilitating and supporting local businesses. Well, when PetSmart was brought, 3 private pet stores, shops, went out of business. When Michael's came, Ben Franklin went out of business, and some other framing stores. So this economic development has to find a way that's going to support and not destroy local entrepreneurs.
Thanks.
And that's one thing I would be working at. Also, I think, we're in a new age where there are a lot of people coming here because they can work remotely.
So, how much do we really have to have hardscape development to support economic development? Is there some other way that we can support that? So those are my two thoughts on economic development.
Lynn, I want to stay with you because I want to move to education, which Chuck's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think almost half of the budget is related to education, which is pretty remarkable. One of the things I think you said in one of the discussions was this is the second priority of a list of 4 or 5 of yours, and that you think more control needs to be exerted over education. And I'm kind of wondering how you perceive the role on the county council that goes beyond funding to exerting more influence, I guess, on what happens in the schools.
Okay, thank you for that. I sort of pick up on what Dave said, and that is that the education curricula and financing and everything else is controlled by Annapolis. And there's very little that local government can do. And the only role right now that the county council plays is budgeting. And what needs to happen is we need to elect good members of the Board of Education that are going to monitor this. But more importantly is the county council can't solely do its budgetary job. I had proposed that there be an education accountability commission or board established so that when the budget comes up for review by the council, that you've got a group of teachers and other experienced people in the field of education that can actually look at the budget, say, oh, $10,000 for books. Well, what are those books? Give us a list of those books. And that addresses some of the issues that Dave raises about, what are they teaching in the schools? So the only way I can see that practically happening is if you have an education accountability board, and that would be one thing that I would move forward if I were on the council.
Good. Dave, let's pull you back into this. See if you want to elaborate a little bit more on what you see happening in the schools.
Sure. Well, I mean, we certainly do need to make sure we pay attention to our local school board elections, right? There's numerous people who are running. Please look into those individuals. Make sure that you, as citizens, are electing the ones that you feel are going to represent our children the best. In our schools, as I mentioned prior, there's some issues that are dividing our schools. Also, there's safety issues in our schools. I don't think anyone in this room can say that our schools now are safer than what they were in the past. A lot of fighting, a lot of things going on like that. We just need to make sure we have folks there that can help with that. We also need to make sure that parents' voices are not being heard right now, and that's a big concern. We need to make sure that our parents, our teachers, their voices are being heard. Right now, the way it seems to have been in the past at school board meetings when they were not allowing more than 10 people in, people feel not listened, not heard. The school boards have just basically been a rubber stamp, right? They were told how they were going to vote, and that's not how that's supposed to work. That basically just moots everyone's voices. So again, we need to make sure we're focusing on policies. We get rid of policies that are in our schools that are dividing our students, dividing our teachers, dividing our community. Then we need to make sure we give our parents a voice, make sure they're involved in their kids' education, and not just at a PTA level where they're raising money, but make sure we ask the tough questions and to really get to the root of the problems.
Thanks. David, you've actually taught. You see this influence of Annapolis as being one of the real problems in education, or how do you perceive education here today?
Well, it certainly goes more deeply than Annapolis. I think Annapolis is simply reflecting, as the dominated 2-to-1 by a particular party, is reflecting a nationwide problem, which is of introducing critical race theory into schools, now under the guise of social emotional learning. I mean, yes, it's true. Critical race theory is something they teach in law schools and philosophy departments, and nearly every education department in the country. Social emotional learning is the implementation of that to make children, to distort the way children see themselves and see the curriculum. And we are facing this, and we are facing the same problems with. So those are things that come from Annapolis, but they are much broader if we're going to try to think about solutions, because we're leaning here against a very strong wind coming at us from the west and from the north. And I see one of the jobs of the Talbot County Council as being holding up against that wind and saying, no, we know that this is where education has gone nationwide and it's a disaster. We know Annapolis is telling us we should be doing it. We're going to find every way we can to provide the kind of education that's consistent with the family values and the desire for students to do well that parents here in our county want.
Thank you, David. Chuck, for 8 years, you've lived with this, but the budget challenge, or at least seems to me a budget challenge, where so much money goes to the schools, probably appropriately, but are we adequately funding education? Is it depriving us from doing other things in the county? How have you balanced the equation?
You're right. I have been through 8 of them. The last one was $50 million. I think as a council, we've done very well. I'm from the public school. I graduated here, so it means a lot to me. The school board puts the budget together, okay, then comes to us. Then I think we sort of do a good job as council, because everybody needs to understand we're the executives of the county, so we look down. We don't need anybody, we don't need another commission to take a look at it. That's our job. So I think the school board does a good job. I think the new administrator, Kelly, did a good job. Now we have Sharon that's going to be taking the helms, and we're proud of her, and we're going to have to work with her. One of the concerns I do have as a council is the blueprint for Kerwin. Kerwin's going to be putting stuff in position, and it's not a whole lot I'm not sure we're going to be able to do about it, but we're going to be obligated every year to pay them a certain amount, and outside of them coming to us and wanting $2 or $3 million more to fund stuff, we just have to sort of be very careful on how we are spending that money, because that'll come back the following year. So just things that are coming up. I mean, we've got the White Marsh is scheduled to have a renovation. That's right now going to be somewhere in the $13 million range. So there's things down the road that capital projects for the schools that we're going to be responsible for, that we really, really have to be keep an eye on how we're going to pay for that. So that's just some of the things that the council is doing now, looking in the future on how we're going to pay for this stuff.
Michelle, you're close to the education system here.
Graduate myself, yes.
Is there more money needed or different kind of allocation? How do you look at it?
Well, so with the passage of Kerwin, the maintenance of effort is no longer going to be sufficient to cover educational needs. There's not a whole lot we can do about it, and I am also concerned, the Department of Legislative Services actually took a look at what they expect the impact to be on our finances, and they're concerned as well. Our revenue is just not projected to grow more than 3.7%, and our need for education alone is going to be 5.2%. That's projection. Of course, that can change, but regardless, we're going to need to look at creative solutions to find new ways that we can cover that gap, and it's going to be the county responsibility that we do that in a way that it doesn't burden people who can least afford to have new burdens placed on them. If I could, I would like to take a moment to respond to a few of the other things that have been said here tonight.
Sure.
I just really have one question as far as asking the school board to provide, if there's going to be $10,000 spent on books, what are those books? Lynn, are you trying to ban any specific books?
I didn't say that. I said that we need to focus on what is being financed. That's all. And if the Education Advisory Board wants a list of what books are being listed, then they do that. It could apply to anything.
Well,
it's
that's
just
what
that
the school
it's
board
not.
does.
Excuse me. It's not. It's a difficult budget. It's a complicated budget, and the county council is so busy. I don't think that they have the time to take the fine-tooth comb that is deserved, and that's what I'm suggesting. I just gave an example.
Okay. Thank you for answering the question.
I would like to pull Pete into this, and then we've got a couple other issues in about 10 minutes to go. Pete, in your role, you bring lots of young people to the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum. So you see education from a different perspective in addition to whatever you're doing on the council. How do you, is there enough being spent? Is this a growing challenge to educate the people here, the young people in this county, or how do you view it?
Well, the state has said that what we need to do is eliminate the inequalities from county to county in funding, and the blueprint is designed to do that, so that you'll get the same quality of education whether you live in Queen Anne's County or Talbot County or Montgomery County or Somerset County, and some of our counties have a longer distance to go to do that. Now, one thing I will say about the blueprint is that it has hardwired into it funding levels. And those funding levels were created in an environment of 2% inflation. And there is no inflation adjustment in there. And so over time, as this compounds, and as to the extent that inflation persists, and even from the 2 years of inflation that we've seen, we're already going to see a reduced impact of what the blueprint formula will do for the transformation of our schools, unless the state legislature attends to it. We are given a state, you will meet this. There are instances where I think we have the opportunity to say, look, the blueprint does certain things, math, science, English, etc., special education, but that it may not address all of our specific local needs. And the schools came to us this past year and said, there are some things that we need to fund that the blueprint does not require us to fund. It included a couple more special education teachers because of our growing population of special education needs. It included a couple of English language learner teachers because of our growing population of students that don't speak English at home. And we funded it. We found a way. Now, granted, this was a good year. Not every year will be as easy as this past year. But we were able to step up to the plate and say, these are our local needs. We do have these opportunities to identify. Yes, there is a state formula. There's a one-size-fits-all approach for the state. But sometimes there are specific needs that apply just to Talbot County, and we need to be attentive to those. I will say now, also, 8% inflation is a big factor when you consider that we have a 2% tax cap with a temporary allowance for 1 penny above that. That's not sustainable. Ultimately, that's going to get us into trouble, and we are forced to fund the schools, but we are not forced to fund public safety. We are not forced to repave our roads. We are not forced by the state to do a lot of the other functions of county government that we know we need to do. And so we're probably going to have to revisit that penny supplement. Last thing I will say is we do already have an education accountability board. We call it our elected school board.
Phil, and then we're going to do a lightning round here. Go ahead.
Thanks. I just want to say a few things about education. It's deeply important to me. My mom is in the audience today. She was an educator for many, many years. She just retired. I would never dare sit at the kitchen table and inquire about what she's teaching and ask her questions as to whether or not that teaching was relevant or important. She is an expert at being a teacher. We have experts in our schools who are teachers. We pay them to do their job. We expect of them much. We give them very little. We pay them very little. We have a responsibility in this community to make a deep investment in our schools. I have 4 children in our public schools. They come home well taught, well fed. We have children in our schools that are facing unbelievable challenges. The children in our schools speak over 18 languages. We need to be investing more in our school system. We need to be giving our educators more capacity to reach our students. And we need to support our elected Board of Education. With full transparency, my wife has just served 4 years on that Board of Education, and I'm extremely proud of her. We talk about things like CRT and social emotional learning. We see them on the national stage as talking points to drive a culture war in this country that is deeply upsetting. Our schools in this county are phenomenal. We talk about economic development. We talk about what the future of Talbot County will be. And I can tell you right now that unless the kids coming out of our school system are well equipped, are well educated, and are capable individuals, they'll leave our communities. We have a responsibility to strike the balance of giving those children what they need to raise families here, to have careers here, and we certainly need to make sure that our schools can reach those children where they are.
Thank you, Tom. Scott, you haven't had a chance. Go ahead.
Thank you, Craig. Phil, I absolutely second what you say, and I second, Phil, what you have said. I think that we need to be clear. The Talbot County Council has no place in the educational system. Yes, we approve that budget, but that budget is given to us by competent educators. It's given to us by the Board of Education. It's given to us by the superintendent of schools. And I will say, by the way, the superintendent of schools who won the Maryland State competition for the best superintendent of public schools in Maryland. She is amazing, and she does an amazing job of presenting public schools to the county council in support of her budget. We do not need another accountability board, and we do not need programs in the county council that undercut the students or the superintendent or the Board of Education or the PTA. Those are the people that should run and drive the schools. We need to recognize that. And we don't need people that are talking about critical race theory that they can't really define. But when you look up critical race theory, they're talking about banning books. And Lynn, you did say that you wanted to use the budget to ban a book, so stand up for what you're saying. And I look at those.
I did not say that.
Go back and check the record. And if you look at what books are being banned, I mean, just start with the books that are talked about. It's Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, I was raised on that book, and the kids in the schools are raised on that. There's no place to ban that book. And Frederick Douglass. I mean, there are people that are talking about banning Frederick Douglass's book. I mean, this is the founding father of Talbot County. So think about that. There's no place for this in Talbot County Council. If people are interested in that, have them work on the Board of Education or with the PTA. And I rest my case.
Thanks. I had.
Can I make one point?
There were 2 questions.
One quick point.
Very short, though.
One of the motives behind the suggestion of an Education Accountability Board is the other side of the coin for people who say, okay, they're teaching critical race theory. They're doing this, they're doing that. If you have an independent board that says, well, no, these are the books.
You're just moving
it's two. No, I'm not. I'm just saying it plays 2 roles.
Let's. There were two final questions. Ironically, one of them was on civility. But I actually think, with maybe a couple of moments, you get a sense of this group that civility and tone and approach is important. So I'm going to skip that and do a lightning round, courageously. Do a lightning round because I want you to all have the 2-minute close. And I actually, this last question is on faith and our form of democracy. And I was really questioning whether to raise it, although in our survey, at least 10%, maybe more, when asked if they had the opportunity to ask you a question, what would it be? And the response of about 10% was they wanted to ask you whether you believed in the 2020 election outcome. And then a poll just out the other day says that 84% of likely voters say that the integrity of elections is going to be important to them. And so because that's on a lot of people's mind, as I say, it's a lightning round. I don't think we need a lot of debate, but I'd like to just go down and very quickly, are you concerned about election integrity in Maryland in this election? Have you had concerns about past elections? Dave, we'll start with you.
Sure. I mean, every voter should want election integrity. I want to make sure my vote counts for who I cast my votes for. Everyone in the audience should as well. That's plain and simple. What we do have, and I don't think anyone in the audience can disagree with this, is just a unity problem. The last few years have just been divisive. Disagreement does not equal disrespect. We can have those tough conversations. If you elect myself, we'll have those tough conversations. It doesn't mean we need to be disrespectful to each other. It doesn't mean we need to we need to get into a knockdown, drag out, whatever. It just means we need to have an educated conversation. I'll leave it at there.
Thank you. Well, David, election integrity.
Yes, I think election integrity is very important. I'm concerned about election integrity. I think we have a significant amount of work to do to ensure that votes are cast by those who are entitled to vote and only those who are entitled to vote, and only once. And I also think that it is extremely important that we get back to the point of view that when you count up the votes, the one who had the most votes won. And we have not adhered to that rule for 20 years, not for 2 years or 4 years.
Thank you. Lynn.
Since 2016, I have served as an election judge and watched the election process in Talbot County, and you got to be proud of it. It's great. And I know that right now, the Board of Elections needs people to be election judges and poll watchers, and I would encourage everybody here to volunteer because we have a great board here, and they need support, and our elections are good, solid.
Thank you, Lynn. Pete?
I, too, have been impressed with our county elections board, our county election staff, even though they have been short-staffed in this cycle, and with the security of our voter system and ballots. Now, they've told us they need to do more to make sure that these are secure in the future, and the county council needs to step up to the plate and make sure that they have the tools that they need to do so. That is a real role for this next council. There have been no allegations that have come to my ears of voter fraud or voting irregularities in Talbot County, and that's important. I have confidence in our elections, and I will accept the outcome of this election.
Thanks, Scott. Scott.
My turn.
Election integrity. The lightning round, I remind you.
The lightning round. I too think the county election is very well run. The Board of Education elections, I have worked with them over a long period of time. They do very, very well. I will say that they are short-staffed this time, that they need more election judges. There's still an open opportunity to sign up and be trained on this. So if you want to participate I urge you to do so. On the national level, I don't think that affects us here, but on the national level, the election, went before the courts in like 62 cases. They all deemed that the election was fair and just. I support that.
Thank you. Phil.
You know, it's a privilege really to be able to vote in this country. It's important, and I feel that we in Talbot County do a fantastic job. I've had an opportunity through work on the Central Committee to see how our citizens truly rise up and they participate as election judges. They contribute their amount of time. For many, those are 13-hour shifts. It's a remarkable service to this county. I think that we have a very strong process here, and one that we should be proud of. At a national level, yes, I do believe in the outcome.
Thank you, Phil. Keisha.
So I agree with everything that's been said. I believe our system here in Talbot County is one of integrity. The system works. If anyone has any questions in regards to our system, I really highly encourage them to be a poll watcher, a judge, or an observer. I've done that before, running for office, and I think it's a great experience. That way you can see everything that's going on that day for Election Day. But I do believe that our system works, and I believe in the system, and will accept the outcome, especially of the Talbot County Council.
Thank you. Michelle.
So I think one of the reasons that faith has been shaken in our democracy at the national level is that there are prominent, powerful politicians who have made it abundantly clear they only accept the results of an election when they win. So belief in democracy means you accept the will of the people. So as been echoed here by my fellow colleagues, I will absolutely accept the outcome of the election. It also means we do take part in civil discussions and disagreements, and the best defense of our democracy does remain participation by voting, by organizing, by talking with our friends and our neighbors, and then by volunteering. I was a technical specialist in 2020 at the Board of Elections, and I thoroughly want to echo everything that's been said here. They need help. They won't let me do it again. I don't know why. But I encourage anyone who has questions about our elections to just volunteer. Ballots are locked and sealed in bags to be opened at all. They need chief judges of both political parties to be present and signed off on. Election workers are detailed and thorough, and participating in this process will help restore your faith in our great democracy.
Thank you. Chuck, I think you've thought about this a few times.
I got to wrap all this up, don't you? So, first of all, the council is responsible for having a place for the election board. This next council will have to find a place for them. We've got a couple things in the makings. I believe in the election board. They're really good people. They work very hard. We're responsible for them. We back them. They come in front of us with the budget. So, I accept everything too, that the election is the election. That's what you guys are up here to make a decision on, and we have to accept who you want to run the county.
Thank you very much. Okay. Candidates, take a little deep breath. The final 20 minutes, we're closing in on this. We've asked each candidate to, they recorded an opening statement, as you saw when you came in, and you can see it at home if you use the QR code after tonight. But we asked them to think about and each prepare individually a closing statement. Rather than go by alphabetical order, which is the way they're seated, back in the green room, or down in the green room, we had a drawing, and we drew the order of these closing statements. We're actually going to have 10, because Wade Strickland couldn't be here tonight, but he did record a closing statement. First, to deliver a closing statement, 2 minutes, and I will be more of an enforcer on this so we can get out of here. But Scott.
Thank you very much, Craig. I'd like to... Thank you. Thank you very much, Craig. I'd first like to thank everybody for being here, and I thank Craig for asking such comprehensive questions and helping us through this discussion. It's very emotional to talk about some of these things, and I feel very strongly about some of these things, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about these. We were asked to talk about things that didn't come up, so I'm going to tone it down a little bit and talk about how important some things are to Talbot County that we have not had a chance to talk about. Comprehensive plan is one, which is being revised and updated, as well as the comprehensive water and sewer plan. And it's so important to land use. And having people that really focus on that is important, and your input is so important on that. Climate and environment we didn't touch on. There's flooding in Talbot County, and we need to, in addition to just fixing the roads, doing a better job at doing that, raising them up so that they don't flood. And I think getting funds from the American Recovery Plan Act, ARPA, is something that we should do. I've talked to Senator Chris Van Hollen about this and look forward to getting his support on doing that. Access to health care is vitally important. The loss of doctors that we have, the lack of ability to see a GP is very important. The Talbot County Council should focus on that issue. Affordable housing is very important to us because the teachers, the first responders don't have access to affordable housing to live in this county. Public safety. Public safety is very important. It's underfunded. We need to look to the ARPA funding. We need to look to the Inflation Reduction Act for the funds to support public safety so that we can get adequate public safety as future events require and as we require as citizens. So important. Funding of Talbot County is important. I thank you for listening, and I thank you for support.
Thank you, Scott. David, you're up next.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. I'm going to quickly summarize, which is, I think, the key issues for the county are the threat of unmanaged growth, the challenges of our budget, public safety, the schools, and our inadequate health care system. With that on the record, I'll just talk about two. Nobody here has talked about the elephant in the room, which is just a few miles south of us on Route 50, called the Lakeside Development. That's a great example of what I think is unmanaged and excessive growth. 2,500 housing units, then an additional probably 1,500 that are in the planning stages in Easton, adds up to 8,000 to 10,000 more people coming into the county over a very short time. I don't think there is any way that can be tolerated in terms of the infrastructure that we have, the schools that we have, our healthcare system, wastewater treatment, and roads. I think I missed roads, but they deserve being mentioned twice because of the congestion. I think many of us on this panel believe that we need to do a complete reset on that lakeside development, put a halt to any new permits there, make sure that we review the whole thing, question critically whether this spray irrigation system is anything but a loophole for letting nutrients flow into the bay through different directions where they don't get counted. Then let me go back from there to budgets. I spent many years doing program reviews in the United States government with extremely capable experts and honest civil servants in the different service areas in the Department of Defense, in the Department of Energy. Sure, they're all very good, and they always ask for more, and there has to be a balancing from them on top of, do they really need it?
Thank you, David. And Dave, you're next in line.
As the last two candidates have said, I'd like to thank everyone just for their time tonight. It really means the world. Absolutely, thank you so very much for just taking the time to hear what we have to say and to make your informed choice here come November. I'd just like to conclude with, I'm most importantly a Christian. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm here to listen to you. Right? God gave me 2 ears and one mouth. I should do more with my ears than with my mouth. That's the way I'll take the approach if honored to be elected to you by Talbot County residents. Again, we have some tough issues that we need to address. We need to address them civilly. We need to have those open and honest conversations to make sure that we can move this county forward in the directions that I believe everyone up here wants to see our community retain its rural character, our beautiful environment. We need to make sure that we're doing those things to make sure that Talbot County remains the great place that we all have right now to live, work, and play. We need to make sure we're focused on security, protecting our men and women in uniform and our first responders. There's only one candidate that's up here on this stage that can claim the honor of having the endorsement of our sheriff. That's myself. I take that very to heart. And we need to make sure that we're protecting our men and women in uniform and giving them what they need. Other than that, again, thank you for your time tonight. It means the world. I hope to earn your vote here on November 8th, and looking forward to serving you over the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Keisha, you're up next.
All right, that came pretty fast, huh? So again, thank you all for coming out this evening. It truly was a pleasure to share our ideas for the County Council with all of you this evening. But my platform has been the same each time I've ran for County Council. This is my third time. Third time's a charm. And I support education. I know that we need to focus on our teachers. We need to focus on our kids. We need to make sure that they are able to compete for jobs when they graduate high school. I want to focus on supporting after-school programs that help decrease the achievement gap. We have people here in the room tonight that work hard and tirelessly at doing that. The folks over at BAM, Charlene DeShields, a teacher here. I don't want to call everybody out, but she was my daughter's first grade teacher. So education is important to Talbot County, and I will fight for our educators, our students, having kids in the public school system and being a graduate of Easton High School myself. Economic development is a priority, as I stated. Being a small business owner myself, I know the importance and the value and the hard work that goes into making sure that you meet payroll. And lastly, the environment, supporting the watermen, in which many of us had breakfast with this morning, but also the agriculture industries as well, our traditional industries. So again, thank you so much. And if elected as your Talbot County representative, know that I will be bold, be persistent, and be partners with all of you.
Thank you, Keisha. Lynn, you're next.
I'd like to join everybody else in thanking everybody for coming here and listening to us and reacting to certain issues that are brought up by certain candidates. It's a learning experience. Thank you. I wanted to bring up one of the important issues that hasn't been discussed. It's going to come before the County Council in the next term, and that is the redrafting of the comprehensive plan. I think it's the most important job that the County Council does. And in this instance, there are some issues with doing that that need to be corrected. I'm not going to go into details because it is subject to litigation, but the comprehensive plan is going to be important. In years past, there was committees appointed, citizen advisory committees, a steering committee. And so I would work diligently to make sure that all Talbot Countyans are heard about what they see as the vision for Talbot County, and to work with them and assist it. As an attorney, I feel that I have a special ability to work with the county attorney and work with the council to interpret the ramifications of the program and also to help with it. Finally, I want to touch on Lakeside. I think Phil needs to move down there to deal with the sewer system. Thank you. And that's another thing that I think is going to come up. We need an adequate public facilities ordinance for the county, and we need to try and work that out for the towns, because we've got to make the developers pay for what they're doing and not kicking the can down the road for citizens to take over the price for something that they built and they ought to pay for. So those are my two big things. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Well, believe it or not, Phil is actually up next.
The timing is impeccable. I am not interested in moving to Lakeside, for the record. I'm humbled to be on this stage today. Thank you very much to the Avalon who had us here. The last show I saw here was Graham Nash. I'm now as cool as Graham Nash for being on stage, and that makes me feel pretty excited. Congratulations to our Braves football team. My son Christopher's in the audience. They won their last homecoming game today, and I think that's pretty awesome. County Council is important. It's important because it affects things that are happening here in our community. We live here in our community. We have we will benefit and or not directly from the actions of County Council. I am very much someone who is focused on micro things. What can we do to affect change in our communities, because that's where we live. Get out and vote. It's important. It's your responsibility. And there are wonderful candidates and wonderful people, all of these people who are contributing their time, stepping forward to volunteer into a position that is very difficult. The last 4 years would tell some of that story. For these individuals who have been on County Council for the past 4 years, who have served on our Board of Education, this is no easy task. And it is done with grace, and I am impressed by that. Key issues that we will face, digital. How do we make the move from being able to provide broadband in our communities to making our government something that is serviced through the internet? How do we connect to our citizens and allow them to engage with government using that broadband? Clean water, lakeside, super important. Let's be willing to kind of insert the pause and reflect on the decisions that have been made and make sure we don't make poor decisions going into the future. Talbot County is our home. We're responsible for it. Civic service is important. Volunteerism is important. I will be a leader who leads with passion, and I look forward to an opportunity to serve on this county council.
Thank you, Phil. Chuck.
Okay, the one thing I heard tonight that really hurt, Joe, I thought you were I was your favorite. Okay? Come on now. Well, first of all, I really appreciate everybody doing this for us tonight. Dave, you've done great. All the staff has done great. It's been a big deal for you guys, and I really appreciate it. I want to congratulate everybody here tonight for doing a really good job. This job is a really hard job. You can ask my buddy out here, Dirk Bartlett, okay? Me and Dirk probably agreed on 2 things in 4 years, right, Dirk? Huh? Exactly. But this is a tough job, and we're all passionate about it. You need somebody on this council that's got experience, common sense, and can balance things and lead. Okay, we got to make some really tough decisions. Okay, I own 3 businesses. I make decisions every day. I feel I'm qualified for it, and I love doing it. I love working for you guys. There's so many things out there, and Joe Gamble can tell you that we have to do as a council for safety, EMS, fire department, watermen, making decisions for them, helping them, help fund them. The environment, making decisions. There's just so many things out there that 5 people have on their shoulders, and it's really stressful. It's a lot of work, day in, day out. It's your life for 4 years, okay? I've chose to do it one more time, if I can, for your help, and I really would appreciate your vote. I'd love to be able to do it again, and thanks a lot, guys, for being here tonight.
Chuck, thank you very much. Pete.
Thank you to the Avalon for doing this, sponsoring this forum, to the Talbot Spy. Thank you, Craig, for your expert moderation here. Thank you, all of you attending here or listening to this later in its recorded form, for your interest in local government, because it matters, and you get that. We need to know what we can do and what we must do. We cannot lower your fuel prices. I'm sorry. We cannot rewrite the school curriculum. That's not our job.
But what can we do? What must we do? We must support public safety. We need to add another ambulance unit to the North County area to make sure that we've got 8-minute response times for a greater percentage of our calls. Chuck alluded to that earlier. That is a priority. This next council needs to step up to the plate. We can and we must achieve cleaner waters here through sewer upgrades and getting failing septics offline and all the other measures that we can do to improve water quality here for the sake of our watermen, for the sake of all of us. We can and must attract and retain good jobs with our economic development incentives and the available infrastructure of the Mistletoe Hall Industrial Park. We need to be paying attention to these things for the benefit for the future of Talbot County. We must move the sheriff into new and modern facilities and out of the way of the runway expansion that will take place in January of 2024. These are things that we are empowered to do. These are things that the next council must be paying attention to and must accomplish. What I bring to this are values of openness and fairness and respect, and I thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Pete. And I think the technology will allow us to hear next from Wade Strickland.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wade Strickland, and I'm running for Talbot County Council. I feel one of the most important things is to preserve our rural way of life. We need controlled growth that follows our comprehensive plan. We must have governmental oversight asking our developers, how is your development going to support the future infrastructure needs associated with your project? We must create opportunities for our younger population. Affordable housing is key in keeping younger people in our communities. Job creation by nurturing technology and clean manufacturing is necessary to bring higher paying jobs for our workforce. We have many educational hurdles that need our attention. Our teachers' pay must be competitive with other school systems to retain our top educators in their respective fields. We must enhance our safety measures at our schools to protect our children while in the school's care. And not every child is bound for college, and our school system needs to support our children. Thank you for your time. If you would like more information, please reach out at citizensforwadestrickland.com or on Facebook at Citizens for Wade Strickland. Thanks a lot.
Strickland family is here. Thank you. Thank you. We've got one more. Michelle won the chance to close up. I'm sorry we couldn't provide musical accompaniment for the rest of you.
Thank you.
Michelle.
I want to thank the Avalon Foundation and Talbot Spy for sponsoring this fabulous town hall event tonight, and for all of those here and at home watching in the future, for sharing your valuable time with us. You know, I'm reminded of a simple fact: Talbot County shows up. We show up when it matters. It has been said that the highest office in the U.S. is that of citizen. It is a serious job, and people must be serious about that office, engaged in it, and participate in it. We know the most powerful force that we have to turn this tide of disinformation is an educated electorate, and your presence here is a testament to your dedication to making that be true. Now, left unsaid in that is the joy to be found in civic participation. You've probably seen me at many of my dozens and dozens of events that I've been privileged to attend and then share with you all on social media. Whether I've been walking with farmers in Oxford and Easton, or attending the blessing of the boats in Tillman, or cheering on the ducks at the Ducky Derby in Tillman, watching the parade in Cordova and Trapp firehouses, or supporting the Rural Life Museum in Trapp, or whether I've met you at the door. What I hear from every corner of this county is that we share a love of Talbot and its unique, beautiful community. And sometimes the way we express that is different, but we share this vision. A vision that in this new time, we need new solutions. We will modernize our infrastructure to face the challenges of rising sea levels and correct wastewater treatment issues to clean up the bay. We will seek an input from a diverse group of our community to ensure we are advocating for our entire community. And we will bring innovative technology and broadband to all our residents to ensure that we all have access to the tools of the future. Together, we will thrive. And thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Well, it can't be said enough. Thank you to the Avalon Foundation. Thank you to the Talbot Spy for caring so much about this community to put this together and to execute to the crew a perfect, flawless program. The League of Women Voters has these outside. I've been asked to let you know. You can pick up on the way out. I do want to thank all of you who are here, all of you who are listening during this live streaming, and those who will watch it later. It's really tremendous for all of you to turn out and listen to these candidates. Most of all, I'd like you to join me in really showing our appreciation for 10 people who have entered the arena, who are out there every day campaigning for these offices because they care about our community. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's thank our candidates. Everybody travel safe. Vote on November 8th. Look forward to seeing you around town.